Today, we're going to talk about when 85% will outperform 100%. That has to do with your presentations, quality, and skills. That has to do with your closing ratios. That has to do with the projects inside of your practice. That has to do with just about everything going on in your business. We're going to jump into that next. Also, I'll be giving you an opportunity to get the 12-step advisor reset report, 34 pages packed with ideas and opportunities to help you run a more streamlined and higher growth practice.
This is The Rare Advisor, proud to be a part of the Advisor Advancement Network and home of a business model supercharged by recurring and repeatable events. Your host is Mike Walters, CEO of USA Financial. He is an investment advisor representative of and securities are offered through USA Financial Securities, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
Hey, before I get rolling here today, I just want to point out again to you the availability for you to receive the Advisor's 12-Step Reset Report. It's a 34-page report kind of reflecting back on the past 35 years, all the things that I see that help create predictable growth, value, and lifestyle for financial advisors. This has become a very popular resource, and if you would like to get your hands on it, you can go to www.12stepreset.com. That's 12stepreset.com. Now, today, I want to dive into a concept that we have been teaching for, probably 2 or 3 decades here at USA Financial. We call it the 80% rollout. Some people are coming in and zeroing in on an 85% number versus an 80% number. Different people have different ways of titling or explaining it. But there was recently an article in the Wall Street Journal that is on this particular topic. So I wanted to take an opportunity to give you a freshen up on this concept if you've heard it before. And if you haven't, then you are in for a treat. So the idea is that something less than 100% will perform better than 100%. So in other words, in this particular article, they're zeroing in primarily on 85% rather than 80%. You're splitting hairs at that point. But nonetheless, it's essentially where 85% beats 100%. And this has to do with productivity. It has to do with effort in sports. It has to do with effort in dealing with your clientele. It has to do with closing ratios. We see this tremendously, which is how we've often gotten on this subject in the first place. But before I go into that, what I want to do is take you very quickly back to the roots of this. The roots of this, from what I've been told anyway, is that it comes out of an engineering concept. And the idea is that when you take a crack at something and your goal is simply to get it to 80% on the first go around, oftentimes that's enough right there. But if you really want to go back and revisit it, so let's say it's a project, or maybe you're writing your corporate newsletter, or some kind of a thing that you can keep coming back to and essentially improving upon it. If you come back and take another 80% crack at the 20% that remains, 80% of that 20% is 16%. So you add 16% to the 80, and by round 2, you're up to 96%. If you do that again, you're at 99%. And if you go any further, you are way too compulsive about this. But nonetheless, the idea also is that oftentimes perfectionism is code word for procrastination. A lot of times a perfectionist will talk to you about why they want something so perfect before they roll it out, but then they can never get it to the finish line and roll it out. It's actually procrastination being camouflaged as perfectionism. Now, with that being said, I want to spin it now to the sales side. When you are performing at 85% of your effort, for lack of a better word, sometimes you'll be shocked that you will perform better than you do at 100%. Because when you're at 100%, you're wound so tight, it's very difficult. Perfect example. Last night, my son is a doubles tennis player, one of his multiple sports, and he is approaching. They're getting ready to go into the regionals right now. So they finished up conferences. They're going into the regionals here. And I went to watch him the other day, and his serve was off. He's a very good server. He can put a lot of English on the ball and a lot of speed on the ball. And so when he is going back to serve, he's cranking on that thing at 100%. Maybe you could even argue 110%. He's really going after it. But his serve was not landing in. He was hitting the net. He was going high. He was going long. It was a mess. When his coach said to him, I want you to hit that first serve at 85%, all of a sudden they were all in play, and he was acing the competitor left and right, which basically means he's getting a point on the serve because they couldn't return it. You can have that same argument in just about every sport. And so it's what's called a relaxed confidence. When you are confident in your skill set and you don't push to the extreme outer bounds of your effort, that Goldilocks balance, as they call it in this Wall Street Journal article, of 85%, it's not slacking. It's actually performing better than 100%. Now, they have since found in 2019 on this research paper that performing at 85% or trying to learn at 85% is actually ideal, meaning that if you make something too hard and someone is getting the wrong answer more than 15% of the time, it tends to work against their learning. If you make it too easy and they're getting 99 and 100% all the time, they're really not learning anything from their errors. And the human brain, as it says right here in highlight, the human brain learned best when it was faced with queries to 85% difficulty. And then finally, knowing when to stop, which is sort of where I started this conversation. The idea is to stop once you're 80% completed on a project, because oftentimes that first burst, that big first effort, that's what contains the meat of what you're trying to do. And your effort for the remaining 20% would be better off spent somewhere else. Now, if we're talking about bringing new assets to your firm, there's a couple of things to understand that make this super important. Number one, this relaxed confidence is huge. If you feel like your back's to the wall and you have to close every single client no matter what, your closing ratio will go down because you're just trying too hard, and the investor, the prospect, the potential new client, they can smell that desperation. One way or another, they just feel it. If you back off and you have a relaxed confidence about you, and you're okay if you're not working with every client. In fact, I'll argue you shouldn't be working with every client. You need a right fit client, but that's a whole nother conversation. Now, with that being said, your closing ratio will go up dramatically. And same thing down here. If you're spending way too long, too much length of effort on an appointment, you will burn everything out. You'll push too far. Don't take them past 80% of what they can handle in any given appointment, because again, then that will deteriorate your closing ratios as well. So understand that this is when 85% outperforms 100%.
This information is for licensed financial professionals only and is not intended for use in soliciting sales from the public. The views expressed represent the opinions of the presenter or their featured guest, not necessarily those of USA Financial or its affiliated subsidiaries. Industry references are generic and not intended to represent actions or beliefs of any individual or entity. Content is only presented to illustrate general principles, beliefs, or ideas and should not be construed as legal or regulatory advice. Trademark and copyright protected. USA Financial and Affiliates.